Okay, I'm just
I
gonna
use
go.
for all my recording.
I'm just gonna go ahead and click on start broadcast here.
Okay, wait. What exactly do we have in mind to talk about? Let's go over that before we start anything.
Well, let's define what horror is first.
Well, no, let's not. We were just gonna, we were gonna talk about Alien and like the good horror movies and how horror has sort of diminished over time.
And direct
How it's evolved thanks to effects
and directors who have defined it and ruined it, or ruined it. Hitchcock, Kubrick, Ridley Scott, Eli Roth,
Wes Craven,
Wes
John
Craven,
Carpenter.
John
and John
Carpenter.
Carpenter. Yeah, and we especially need to talk about Eli Roth.
Can you really call him that anymore? I mean, The Green Inferno didn't do too good.
I mean, he ruined it with early things like Cabin Fever and such.
Fair enough. Then we gotta talk about, like the...
How certain franchises have transitioned into video games and come out for the better.
Like Alien Isolation, for instance, some of the indie community, with exceptions to a lot of things, like the Slaughtering Grounds, for instance, that nonsense.
The Slaughtering Grounds was not a horror game.
I refuse to acknowledge it as anything horror related. It's just a quick cash grab by some
Digital homicide.
By some pathetic, wimpy people who can't dish out what they take, who can't take what they dish out.
Yeah.
And we could mention Jim Sterling and the stuff he brings up.
Well, I was gonna mention I was gonna go on to mention Slender at one point and how that is absolutely not horror.
It's not. It's just a guy walking around with a pathetic flashlight, picking up pieces of paper. And
do you know what the Slender Man model is from?
It's not an original thing.
It's a distended and recolored version of the Superman model from Superman 64.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's what it is?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I also want to do something on how to fix horror movies. You guys know I did that article, so
Yep.
I'm really big on that.
So let's go ahead and get started, I guess.
Well, are we considering thrillers as part of the horror genre as well?
It depends really, like It depends really what type of thrillers we refer to and what they have, because I mean, The Dark Knight could be considered a thriller, and The Joker, for instance.
Oh,
And it
I'm
has
just
horror
gonna-
elements, but it's not a horror story.
I think I'm
Yeah.
just going to go ahead and consider that maybe we already started the podcast because this is some pretty good discussion we're having right now.
I was thinking Zodiac, perhaps.
You talk about the Zodiac Killer, you mean the what you call the
David
movie
Fincher
with
film.
Robert Downey Jr., David Fincher,
Yeah.
yes.
That's not really
Well,
a horror, but it is a thriller.
But it's based off of real life, and they don't really use horror elements, I don't think.
True. Well, what are horror elements, though?
Horror is anything that really makes you feel uncomfortable,
Or terrified.
or terrified.
Yeah, like the first two Terminator films had horror elements.
The first
Wait, are
one
we
more.
like-
I would say the second didn't have much. The first did. The second, I wouldn't say really had many horror elements, except for that nuke scene.
Yeah, the first one was definitely a lot more horror than the second one.
The
Well, the
second one was action.
The second one was totally action, yeah, but it did have its moments, like when Robert Patrick was in the factory towards the end of it.
I wouldn't even really consider that. I mean, I guess you could, but
He kind of acts that way, because the way he talks in the movie too.
mm,
Are we live, guys?
Yeah, we've been
Technically,
live for a
yes.
while.
Are we live like on YouTube or something?
Yeah, it's
mean,
just
like,
that nobody has the link.
I mean, like, are we starting recording, or are we just
Recording's
start-
been going on for a while now.
he'll probably cut and edit this and
Yeah,
put it
I'll-
in somewhere else.
I'll cut
Okay.
an edit.
should we do our intros first, or?
Yeah, let's properly begin.
Yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. So we're back and we're gonna start talking about horror games. Alex, you had something you wanted to say about FNAF, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's restart the conversation there. You can edit this in. I have the thing about there's this other game, Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. I have a friend who's a huge fan of it. He played the games. I've only played one game. I am not scared at all by it because it's literally just jump scares everywhere and
Jump scares the game.
Yeah. Look,
Just like every horror
there
movie now.
is a way to do jump scares and make them scary, but the problem is they're everywhere now. Like, and then the obvious places, like, oh look, there's this door with this dark background. I wonder what happens when I open it. Oop, jump scare. And oh look, there's this broken window. I wonder what happens. Yep, jump scare. Like it's like the Nightmare on Elm Street movie again. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake is just jump scares everywhere.
I don't think there was any. There was one jump scare in on all of the remake. It's when they're driving down the road and it's not even really a jump scare. Is you look out the window and he's standing there. I'd say that was the only real jump scare in the entire movie.
Well, they are making a movie for Five Nights at Freddy's with Gil Kennan, the guy who made Monster House and City of Ember. I've not seen Monster House. I've heard it's good. I'm one
It
of
was
the
decent.
I'm one of the few people who saw City of Ember in theaters. It's okay. It's not as bad
It's
as people make it
decent.
out. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's
Not
okay.
nearly as good as the book, though.
Well, this is going to be his first movie. This is his first movie since 2005. So, and well, I'm not entirely. I wouldn't call myself optimistic for it, but they are using animatronics in it. They're using
That's a
actual
good thing.
animatronics and practical effects. So, I think it would be worth seeing as like a little popcorn movie.
Five Nights at Freddy's has a good premise. I'll give it that. The whole idea of
it's a
having
good
these
premise. It is
characters
definitely a
keep
good
alive
premise.
at night and trying to kill a security guard is a very, very good premise, but
Yeah.
it does not play out well in the game. So if they do it right,
It probably
which
works
this is
better
a
as a
big if in Hollywood. If they do it right, it could be good.
Well, can I bring something else up here?
Sure.
There was a text adventure game, The Haunted Theater, where all these mannequins came to life and started coming after you. So,
See, that's very scary. Like the whole idea of mannequins or something that's not supposed
Yeah.
to be alive coming to life and attacking you is very scary. That's what made Chucky so good. Is it made you scared of a little doll, and that's what horror movies should do.
I'm
Is
not
you brought
entirely
up jump
scared by
scares,
Chucky.
but you brought up jump scares, and I put this in my article where I said that movies nowadays they scare you for a split second. They go for that cheap scare. A real horror movie should make you terrified of the simplest things. Kids were scared to look at their dolls after that. They were scared to look at their dolls after Poltergeist. They were afraid of TV static after Poltergeist. These things are nothing that they turn into something and made you scared of.
Yeah,
Some-
exactly.
it's like the horror themed episodes of Doctor Who,
Yeah,
like-
you're afraid of shadows because of the Vasha Narati. You're
Don't
afraid of
blink.
angels 'cause of the
Whatever-
angels. Yes.
whatever you do, don't blink. The weeping angels are everywhere. That was what made those episodes so good.
I mean, yes, and Moffat does a very good job of that. Again, we'll bring this up we're gonna have a Doctor Who podcast sometime, where he does a good job of making stuff that everyone sees or something that simply everyone fears and something scary. We had Listen in season 8 where he mentioned the dream about someone coming in and or someone grabbing you from underneath your bed. It's a dream everybody has, and he made that more frightening than it already was. He made shadows scary with the Vasha Narada. He made the weeping angel statues scary.
Any
the Weeping
statue's
Angels.
scary,
Yes.
really.
He made gas masks scary because of the
Are
Doctor
you
dances
my
with
mummy?
Yes, he made all those scary.
I will say I have never watched an episode of Doctor Who before, so
Watch-
I wouldn't
watch-
know any of this.
Watch New Who. It's great.
Start
I-
with Blink. Blink is that episode we're talking about the Weeping Angels. Blink is a very good, and it's a very good class in horror. I think.
I say start with the Christopher
I-
Eccleston season.
I prefer to start with the original stuff all the time, but this thing's been around for decades, so
Yeah, it's been around 50
Yeah,
plus years. So
New
it would be
Who.
impossible.
New Who is better than the original stuff, anyways.
oh, it is.
Yeah.
Wait, the
Yeah.
new stuff is actually better than the old stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But yeah, like, see, this is the thing with horror now. Is like I said, it gets you scared for that split second when you're in theater. It doesn't affect you afterwards, and that's what a horror
Yeah.
movie should do.
It's
And
supposed to
that's because
mess with
it's
your
on
mind.
single not on story.
Horror is supposed to mess with your mind. That's what makes it scary. It imprints onto your mind. And now we have things like Twilight, where,
Absolutely all of the horror that's attached to vampires and werewolves is erased.
yeah, Bram Stoker rolls in his grave every time one of those movies gets played.
I'm a huge fan of vampires. Obviously, my name's Vlad, and online I'm Vlad the Vampire. I'm a huge fan of vampires and everything.
Then there's
And it
Uwe
really
Boll and
ruins
everything
it.
he does.
Oh God.
The
What?
last good vampire movie I could think of was 30 Days of Night.
The last good vampire film I can think of is Dracula Dead and Loving It, and that's a comedy film.
Yeah, because it's Leslie Nielsen.
And
But
Mel
yeah.
Brooks. Mel Brooks, he's awesome. He's great with everything.
We'll do a comedy podcast someday so we can talk about how American films do not know how to do comedy these days. But
Oh yeah, no, they don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But,
another story. Again, modern day cinema is falling apart.
Unless they're Phil Lord and Chris Miller, then.
but yeah, I don't think that Five Nights at Freddy's could make a very good movie because
If they go into the lore, then it might be better than it.
Yes, it has a lot of potential. It is a very creepy story.
It can
Yeah.
be an okay.
Right, and they don't do it like the game. If they use the backstory of the game and take
Yeah.
nothing else from the game, I will be happy.
yeah,
If they have like the animatronics going around trying to kill you, but without jump scaring every second, then it could be a good popcorn movie.
If you make it where he's sitting there and you hear the sounds, you know the backstory, and they explain it very well, and you
Yeah.
just hear the sounds, that will be enough.
And
Right.
maybe a second protagonist who's like trying to solve the mystery of all this, who's been obsessed by it for years because one of those kids was his son or daughter or something.
No. Save the horror cliches for the second movie. Seriously, hey,
Oh.
just
Okay.
you know,
Speaking of which, have you guys seen the new trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's World?
no.
Wait, there's a fifth. Wait, oh,
Yes.
of course there's a sixth game. Of course there's.
It's
I knew
absolute garbage. It's
I
a
knew it.
fifth
I
game.
totally called it.
It's an RPG game. They took everything that was scary and took it away. It is now an RPG game where he plays Freddy and his friends going around like the woods and everything. It is absolutely not scary at all, and it is the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. They took characters that were made to be scary, and they even say in the trailer made them cute.
Why?
Okay, I knew there was going to be another FNAF game or whatever, but I didn't expect this. There's probably gonna. Yeah, this is the last game.
There has to be a catch because
It's
for
like
them to
it's
do
like the
this
Fast
is
and
the
Furious
worst thing ever.
franchise. It's like the Fast and Furious franchise. This is the last game, one last ride.
This is one last ride, one last ride, one
They're now
last
saying
ride.
one last
after
trilogy.
2 billion more.
They're now saying one last trilogy. That is their thing now.
Oh really? So this is the fifth game. Now they're gonna make one more, and then they're gonna make 20,000 more trilogies.
Yeah, it's everything about.
You know,
This also brings up unnecessary sequels. I mean,
yeah.
this has been a thing forever. I mean, there were what 3 Fly movies with Vincent Price. There
The
were-
first one had Price. The
Yeah,
second
then there
one
was a
had
second one with Price, and there was a
with
third one
Jeff-
that didn't have
with
Price.
The Jeff Goldblum.
You're,
was
you're
the
thinking of the
second, right?
remake. You're thinking of the remake.
No, the second one, 86. Didn't that have Jeff Goldblum?
Yes, but you're thinking of the remake. I'm talking about the original Fly with Vincent Price.
Yeah, I know that one.
There was the original Fly with Vincent Price, and there was a second one with Vincent Price, and there was a third one that didn't have Vincent Price. Then there was the remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum in 1986.
And then-
1958. That had Vincent Price, David Hedison, Patricia Owens.
And then there was The Return of the Fly.
Yeah,
Then you
It's-
got like the
turns out it was a book originally, a short story
sorry.
by George Langeland from French-born British writer.
But we've always had this problem with unnecessary sequels. I mean,
Yeah.
how many Friday the 13th movies have they made? How many Nightmare on Elm Streets have they made?
how many
and
Halloween
eventually
movies have they made?
Yes, and
Uh,
this takes
you know-
takes away from the character after a time.
The thing
There
about
needs to be
Friday
a
the
time when the
13th
franchise dies.
The thing,
Yeah.
Keep
well,
it
the thing
scary.
about Friday the 13th was that it and Halloween were supposed to transition into anthology horror series after they wrapped up the storylines of the individual antagonists, but they just kept wanting more. You know,
Yeah.
they kept asking for more Michael Myers, more Jason Voorhees.
Like the second one was supposed to be the end of Michael Myers, and they sort of did that. But then the third movie comes around, and it doesn't have Michael Myers.
And
So-
how many Psychos did they make?
There's like five.
Psycho
There's like
is-
5.
Yes,
Anthony-
and Psycho is still in it because we have now Bates Motel.
Well, the second Psycho movie, the second Psycho movie is actually kind of enjoyable. I kind of like it. The third one was directed by Anthony Perkins himself. The third one. Anthony Perkins himself directed the third Psycho.
Hmm. But yeah, what was that Halloween movie that came like 10 years after the end of the
H20?
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about H20. I'm talking about the Return of Michael Myers.
No, I don't know.
Um,
There became a point where I stopped watching them and stopped caring.
Yeah.
the
The
last
thing is that
Halloween
they've
movie, I think, was
sequeled.
2006.
They have sequeled their balls off for these things. Things, to quote
Yeah.
Yahtzee Croshaw.
Yeah,
When the
that's
first Nightmare on Elm Street
Zero punctuation
came
for
around,
zero
Wes
punctuation for those of you who
Craven.
don't know.
Hmm.
Anyway, when the first Nightmare on Elm Street came around, Wes Craven sold his rights to the company. So he was not involved with anything else after Nightmare on Elm Street 1 until Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Right.
So he knew that this should have been a one-off thing. He originally wanted to have a happy ending, but the studio made him do the ending where her mom is drugged through the window.
Yeah,
to set up a sequel.
that made no sense because isn't Freddy supposed to kill you in your dreams? So is this supposed to be
Yes.
her? Is this supposed to be her mom's dream or something?
Well,
Like,
you know,
and then-
a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street tie-in material, and other stuff like that, sort of forgets the
Yes.
the limitations of the dream.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is the perfect example of this, where even Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, said that this is completely bonkers because he comes out of the dream realm and kills people inside a suburban neighborhood.
yeah,
He
like
said, "This
he said
isn't
the
right."
fifth one was his favorite. He said the fifth one was his least favorite, I think, and the third one is his favorite.
Yeah, because I know his favorite line comes from the third one. But yeah,
Huh.
like eventually the franchise needs to die because it can go on for a couple, it can go on for a little bit, so we can get to know the characters and everything. But eventually, they all become parodies of themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing is that
kinda
you
like
gotta
Johnny
move
Depp. It's
on.
kind of like Johnny Depp.
You have
Yeah.
to move on to other stuff that well, if the Twilight Zone had just been about the same kind of thing every single episode, then it wouldn't have been at all interesting. But
And Twilight Zone only lasted 5 seasons, and that's why it was so good. It lasted 5 seasons,
Yeah.
and it still stayed everything fresh. But they tried 2 reboots of the series that completely failed.
um, why did
Didn't they
Psycho
didn't
2
they
come
try
out
those
23 years after the original?
Didn't they do like the Twilight Zone reboots after the creator of the original series died?
Yes. Yeah.
No. Seriously, why come out with a sequel 23 years after the original movie?
Why is
I
there
don't-
still Bates Motel in this day and age? Why is this
I don't
still
think
part of our pop culture?
I don't think Hitchcock had anything to do with Psycho 2. That was directed by it was directed by Richard Franklin, an Australian director. He's what else does he have? He's directed Brilliant Lies, Visitors, Cloak and Dagger, Road Games. This guy is really an unknown.
But yeah,
Yeah.
then they've got the Bates Motel TV series.
Which is
Wait. This guy I just talked about, Richard Franklin.
Uh-huh.
He's his movie Road Games. Quentin Tarantino has called it his favorite Australian movie.
But they've got the Bates Motel TV series with Freddie Highmore.
yeah. See, Bates Motel has nothing to do with Norman Bates. This movie,
I've never seen it.
This TV show could go out under any other name and have any other generic character. It's just them cashing in on the famous name of Norman Bates. It could be. It's a decent show. I'll give it that, but it is not a Norman Bates show.
I've never
could've-
seen it.
It could
I've
have been
never seen
anything else. It's just them cashing in on the name, and I
weird.
hate that they do that.
The most recent
You know,
episode
the woman who plays Norman Bates's mother is only a little bit older than the actor who plays Norman Bates.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Are you
not
serious?
it's not to say
Yeah.
that she couldn't be his mother in real life, but it would be it's a little bit of a stretch because you get them in the same room, they don't really look
No, they don't. They're
like
Okay,
they're
it's
too
Vera
much apart.
but Freddie Highmore does have a little bit of a baby face.
It's a
Yeah.
Vera Farmiga who's 42 years old, and Norman Bates
It's
is
Freddie Highmore
Freddie-
who's 23
who's
years
23.
old.
Okay, that's not a stretch actually.
That's not as much of a stretch as it seems at first glance, but get them in the
But when
same get them in
Yeah.
the same room together, and
they
they
both look very young.
yeah.
I don't know. Actually, yeah, Vera Farmiga kind of looks like she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
She looks very, very young.
They have Max Stereo, Olivia Cook, Nicola Peltz. Oh God, she's in this.
Who's Nicola
I know
Peltz?
The chick from The Last Airbender and Transformers 4.
Oh!
That's a good that's a good resume right there.
Oh, and guess what? It's personally embarrassing to me because she's from Westchester, New York. I have to deal with that embarrassment.
But, you know, I was just gonna say, hey, that on the surface, Five Nights at Freddy's is not a good idea for a movie. It's barely a good idea for a game, but you know what's an even worse idea for a movie? Slender.
Yes, that's an awful idea.
That shouldn't have been a
face it.
game.
Let's face it, Slender is garbage. Let's face it.
Yeah. I remember when that hit, and I was and all my friends were playing it, and they were like, "Man, you got to play Slender. It's awesome." And then I played Slender, and I was like, the first playthrough. I actually have the playthrough up on my channel. Well, everything I did with that in one long video. Oh, the first playthrough didn't even encounter the Slender Man. Just wandered around and static and nothing.
Okay, I just looked up Slenderman game on Google right now. It's first video I see is Slenderman's scariest game ever.
The PewDiePie one.
No, it's from Call of My Gun. He's uploaded July 30th.
What the hell is
2012.
that?
I don't know.
But yeah, you can't
I've
blame
never-
a lot of these big YouTubers on what horror
I've
has
never-
become with these video games.
I've never found Slenderman scary. Anyways, a lot of these games just exist for one reason: just make everyone scream and react with over-the-top faces.
Yes, they are good streaming games because they're very quick, they're very scary at that one half moment. So you have people like Markiplier, which I love Markiplier.
And they're
Mhm.
Smosh.
You have
and
people
I love
like-
Smosh. They're hilarious. But
You have Markiplier, you have Smosh, you have PewDiePie, where they play these games to where something bursts out in front of you in your face. And because these guys are so famous, everybody's seeing this,
Mhm.
and everybody knows to play this game, so they buy this game. And they're indirectly
Smosh-
causing these games to
Slender
keep
was
getting
free.
made.
aren't Smosh like the richest YouTubers ever right now?
Their number... No, I think PewDiePie finally passed them.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the thing about Slender was that it was based on on a really very good short story.
Oh yeah, it was based off like a
Yeah.
real German legend. That's part of it.
Yeah, it was based on the Slenderman mythos, which was based on a bunch of real legends. And the thing is, as a concept, it's really good. You know, get the, you know,
Hey, it's a good
Slenderman.
folktale story. It's a really good
Yeah.
folktale.
I think that the Slenderman mythos would make a really good
It
a
could
really
be a
good movie
movie or TV show. It could
or
be good for
TV
that.
show, but it does not, you know, as it has been handled by the two
it's
main
bad.
studios that worked on it. It is not, you know, Slender has not been treated well in video game form because
Yeah, and that's a shame because it really is a
Yeah.
good folktale. It really is.
yeah, the thing is that you know, Slenderman, it's a dude in a suit with long arms and no face. I mean,
That goes out and murders children for something. But he's
Which is creepy in itself.
Yeah, it's
if
just
you
like,
think about
you know,
it. It's
going
very
into-
creepy.
you know,
look up the
picture
look
my
up the
mindset.
folktale.
Picture my mindset going into Slender, having never heard of any of the mythos or anything behind it. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, dude in a suit with no face. I mean, what am I supposed to be scared of this?
I mean, it is scary as an idea, but it is scary as an idea, and that's what makes the folktale work. But the problem with him is that it's slightly also inspired that incident last year. Remember with that stabbing?
Well, that's not the thing's fault. That's not Slenderman's fault.
Well,
that
that's
was-
a bunch of
stupid
That
kids.
probably would have
Well,
happened
it's a bunch of
anyways.
it's a bunch of stupid idiot kids, idiot kids being idiots because of course they are with this stupid internet age, and sadly it gives a bad name to people of our generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the thing about a lot of horror games is that, you know, they're not actually horror. I mean, you know, Resident Evil was a comedy game. Let's just
Yeah,
go ahead
I mean,
and admit that Resident Evil was a comedy game.
I've never found Resident Evil to be scary.
The first
I-
Resident Evil game was straight up comedy. You know?
I mean, I've only seen the movies. I haven't played any of the games. I haven't played any of them. I've seen walkthroughs and playthroughs of them on YouTube before. I have never found them to be scary. I just burst out into laughter every time I see them because this is meant to be scary. I'm supposed to be frightened by this, right?
Well, I've always sort of thought of it as more like, I haven't actually thought of it as horror or until the remake came around. And that was a pretty good game.
Which one? Which one? The fourth game or
the remake?
Came out just a couple of years ago.
Oh, the remake of
the remake for the GameCube.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, the remake for the GameCube. That was.
Did they recently re-release it for like PS4 and Xbox One?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
The re-release, as Jim
PS3,
called it.
PS3, Xbox 360. They didn't. Even though Nintendo financed the game, Nintendo didn't get the re-release of either Resident Evil or Resident Evil Zero. So, yeah,
And I
Capcom
hate
waited
that
for.
because I love the GameCube. That's my first console I ever played.
Yeah.
See, I think one of the best horror games out there right now is a game that it doesn't use jump scares. It gets your heart started, and that's Outlast. I think Outlast does horror right.
I haven't played it.
It's very simple. All it is just go. You have to keep going places, but you're in an insane asylum and trying to figure out what's going on, and you're being chased by this big guy, and you keep hearing the footsteps, and you have to hide, and you can hear your guy's heartbeat. And this is a scary game because it has all those elements in there. It doesn't use jump scares. It has it has scary things that are going on.
Yeah, and the thing is.
Now I actually want to play this. This is the first horror game I really want to play because it sounds genuinely scary.
I'll say this. Metal Gear Solid is closer to being horror than a lot of horror games are these days.
Oh yeah, what's the guy's name? Psycho Mantis, was that it? The telepathic?
Yes. That was freaky. And like,
weird.
there is nothing quite so tense as having somebody on your tail and having to having to try and get out of there
and the way he
fast
breaks
as
the
you
fourth
can.
wall.
Yes, he breaks the fourth wall all the time, and that's just extra creepy.
Making your controller rumble for real and going through your memory card, things like that.
Yeah,
deleting your files.
Well, he doesn't actually delete it. It's just
I know, but he shows that he is, yeah.
And then he does like that thing where like the video sitting on the TV changes to Hideo or Hideo 2. that was fun. Yeah. That was funny.
But that, that's closer to being horror than, say, Slender or The Arrival or FNAF or
any of those.
Any of that stuff.
And it makes it even sadder that Silent Hills was canceled because Hideo Kojima was working on that with Guillermo del Toro.
And Norman Reedus.
Oh yeah, Norman Reedus with Guillermo del Toro with Hideo Kojima. That sounds like a great team up for something that was genuinely freak you out. And that's what made me think, maybe this would be the first Silent Hill game I play. And then it gets canceled.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that after Kojima stopped working on the Silent Hill games, they went downhill, but they were going to come back when he Konami Konami started farming it out to other studios and people didn't like him as much, but then Kojima came back and everybody was in favor of it, but then they cancel it and come out with the pachinko game.
Okay, so we've canceled Silent Hills now, sorry. But
that demo that they had was a legitimately creepy game, that demo.
Here's something else.
Yeah.
Oh, a new trailer. Okay, guys, check out this trailer. I've only seen the first 3 seconds of it, but it looks freaky. And then
hit the lever!